This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, friends. Come on in. Come on in. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and today we're going to be talking about the D4VD, his name is David, and Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. I just do want to CYA myself and let you know that everything I'm sharing is my opinion, and that this video is for adults only, so viewer discretion is advised. If you haven't subscribed, it's free. I can't get to 60,000 subscribers without your help, so please consider subscribing and come on in. Tell me where you are from. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the bizarre case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez and her boyfriend, David. So what happens when you're a rising star with hundreds of thousands of fans and a body in the trunk, the front trunk of your Tesla? The story of D4VD David is a cautionary tale of what happens when millions, music, and minors converge, blowing up a once promising career and ending with a heartbreaking discovery of a young girl who disappeared when she was only 13 years old, named Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was callously stuffed in plastic bags. She was reportedly taken apart, and she was placed in the front trunk of a Tesla belonging to David. Let's do a quick breakdown on the timeline, and then we're going to get into the connections between David Anthony Burke, aka his stage name is D4DV, and Celeste. And we're going to talk about the real reason that David has not been arrested. Let's quickly go through the timeline. On September 7th, David was performing to sold-out crowds. By September 8th, David was under a cloud of suspicion after the LAPD got called out to a tow yard in the Hollywood Hills, and the LAPD found a black 2023 Tesla car that had been impounded, and inside the trunk they found black trash bags. And inside the black trash bags was a precious young girl that you can see on your screen, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who had disappeared from her family's home. She had reportedly run away and had been reported missing by her loved ones multiple times when she was only 13 years old. By September 11th, brand deals were taking a giant step back from David. By September 18th, his music label was even backpedaling as the LAPD searched his residence in the Hollywood Hills, reportedly taking a computer and boxes of other items. And this residence was being allegedly rented by his manager. So was his manager living there too? And did he have access to this black Tesla? These are questions that law enforcement is going to need to sort out to determine who is responsible for what happened to Celeste. But there are so many connections between Celeste Rivas Hernandez and David. So let's dig into that a little bit more. By September 20th, David was firmly under a cloud of suspicion after Celeste Rivas was found in his trunk. A Tesla that was registered to him was ticketed by LA authorities on a Hollywood Hills street near where he lived, just a short few-minute walk away. And she was found in the trunk. The Tesla had been parked on Bluebird Avenue, so residents had complained allegedly and reportedly in late August, leading to this vehicle being ticketed. It was ticketed multiple times before being towed away. And my sourcing on this is the Times. So when people found out that Celeste had disappeared when she was only 13 years old, David's song lyrics began to sound less like an artistic choice and more like a confession. And images of David and Celeste began to circulate online, including images like this one. And you can see this is David with Celeste on camera live streaming. So, what was really going on here? So, what was the motive behind this crime? 13 years old is certainly a strong motive because David was an adult and Celeste was a child runaway. She was not old enough to consent to being in a relationship with David, and David's career was on the rise. So he had a lot to lose by being outed for being in an appropriate relationship with a 13/14-year-old girl. Now, some people believe that Celeste was pregnant, and this would definitely strengthen the motive. I have not been able to find any credible sourcing that tells me that this was the case. So, motive means an opportunity. Motive is the reason a crime was committed, and 13 years old, 14 years old is certainly a strong motive because as a rising star in the R&B community, David was an adult. He was on his way up. He had a lot to lose. Celeste was not old enough to consent to be in a relationship with David. So, if Celeste is found to be pregnant, or if authorities can prove that he was in a relationship with Celeste, then this would strengthen David's motives. But we also have a property manager who was renting the house in his name. Did he also have a motive? Means. Motive means an opportunity. Means David was strong enough to commit this crime. He would have been easily able to place her parts into separate plastic bags and place those bags in the trunk of a Tesla. He looks young, he looks healthy, he looks fit. So it comes down to logistics. When was Celeste placed in the trunk of the Tesla? And where was David during this time frame? Opportunity. There would have been opportunity, but this is for the investigators to prove. They need to determine, and this is why we don't have an arrest yet, in my opinion. They need to determine, and they'll be able to figure this out by collecting camera footage from doorbell cams, security cameras, traffic cameras, and even cameras that are on that Tesla. There's a front forward-facing camera that would be able to get whoever put Celeste into this Tesla on camera, unless the cameras were manually turned off. So many people are wondering why David hasn't been arrested yet. And if you think back to the Casey Anthony trial, you will recall that Casey's mom also called 911. She said that the car smelled like there was a body in the trunk. She was probably right. However, Casey was found not guilty by a jury of her peers, even though many people to this day believe wholeheartedly that Casey Anthony did away with her daughter, Kaylee Marie. But she was found not guilty. So the prosecution has to prove all of this beyond a reasonable doubt to indict David or his manager or whoever committed this crime. And we're going to show a lot of connections between David and Celeste. A lot, you guys. But they're going to need evidence like photographs, which are there. Videos, well, I just showed you one. Eyewitnesses that saw him with Celeste. Well, we now know that his friends have come forward and said that they saw him with Celeste. They just thought or assumed she was a student at the local university. They didn't dream that she was a 13/14-year-old. And so any eyewitnesses that can testify that David was having a relationship with Celeste will help law enforcement build what's going to be a circumstantial case, unless there is video from the Tesla or from one of the neighbors' cameras showing him or someone carrying Celeste out to the trunk of that Tesla. Now, David has lawyered up. He has ended his lease on his home, which he was renting out under the name of his manager. And we're going to talk about the real reason why this lease was ended. I'm going to give you 4 scenarios, and the 4th one is absolutely horrifying. And then I would love to know what you guys think. So law enforcement, they're going to rule this manager in, or they're going to rule him out. Did he have access to Celeste? Was there anyone else in David's entourage that would have had access to Celeste? Did the manager have access to the Tesla? So the Tesla cameras would have been able to pick up who was putting Celeste in the trunk. It does have cameras on the front of the vehicle as well as on the rear and on the sides. It has multiple cameras. The question is, were the cameras on this Tesla manually turned off? And unlike the Casey Anthony case, there's absolutely no way that David can wiggle out of saying this by claiming that Celeste got into the trunk on her own, because she was found in separate plastic bags. And that means that someone literally took her apart, and I'm watching my words here, and put her into the trunk of that Tesla. And the reason that this case caught fire on social media is because there were already rumors circulating about David and Celeste long before Celeste was found in the trunk of the Tesla. Back in 2023, there is a screenshot of David on Discord. And let me pull that up for you. He wasn't into girls his own age. He wasn't into girls his own age. He liked them young. And I have a lot of other things I'm going to show you guys too. So he didn't like girls his own age, and it appears that David was interested in dating younger girls, allegedly. So this screenshot was taken around the time he was chatting with Celeste, and around the same time, photos began to circulate of them, began to come up for air, resurface, as the Houston events began to unfold. They had matching Shhh tattoos. Let me just show you the receipts on that. On their finger, which is how they were identified, as how they identified Celeste. And there's his. And you can see the Shhh is right here. And Celeste had a similar tattoo on her finger. So they had matching tattoos. They were seen together in multiple camera pictures, in videos, and he even wrote a hit song called Celeste that he had. I'm sorry, it was a song that had not been released. He wrote a hit song called Romantic Homicide. So this guy, in my opinion, was idealizing doing away with someone. So did he live out his ultimate fantasy? Because he says he would have not have been writing songs like this if he was going to do away with Celeste. But, you know, art is a reflection of the deepest recesses of our mind. So was this something that he had proclivities toward? So let's talk about artistic choices versus proclivities and a confession. He wrote, "In the back of my mind, I illed you," with a K. And of course, these lyrics hit a lot differently now that we know Celeste was found in the back of his Tesla. And then there's the unreleased track titled Celeste. And this had not been released. It got leaked onto social media right after the news broke. And the lyrics mention both obsession and tattoos. And then we have David performing in videos This is the Tesla. And the Tesla has a trunk in the front as well as in the back. But my understanding, she was found in the front. It's called a frunk on Tesla. He was making custom shirts with red paint to show blood. This is law enforcement at his house before he vacated it. He was selling these shirts. So was this just a really great frame-up job, or did he do it? And then we have this photo. This is a video. He was literally using a coffin on stage. There's a video of him, and I can't use it for copyright reasons. He has the rights to it. But he's literally dragging a young woman or a young girl on the ground toward the trunk of a car in a shirt. You can see the shirt has blood spatters, and literally put her into the trunk for his video. So this was something that he had proclivities toward. He was into this. This was something that he thought was okay. And then we found out from Celeste's mom that she had a boyfriend named David, and that Celeste told her mom that they had matching tattoos, the matching Shhh tattoo. So we don't have a COD on what happened to Celeste yet, and I don't know how long she was in the trunk yet either. But they may have to use vitreous humor in her eyes to do a toxicology screen, depending on how long she had been in that trunk. But we do know this. Celeste did not put herself inside a plastic bag inside the trunk in multiple pieces. This was not somebody playing hide and seek and climbed into the back of the trunk. She was inside multiple bags. She had been taken apart and placed in a Tesla trunk. And so this was someone definitely covering up a homicide. Now, we've heard different stories that the Tesla smelled and the Tesla didn't smell. This is what I think. I think that probably when it was parked just a few minutes away from where David lived, just down the street, it probably did not smell. The bags were probably tightly wrapped. But I think once the car was lifted up by the tow truck and either pulled up onto the flatbed or towed behind the tow truck, depending on how it was towed, I think that this would have made things in the vehicle shift. And I think at that point, those plastic bags shifted. I think that they opened. And I think that by the time it got to the tow yard, over the next day or two, it would have, the smell, even though, it's a very tightly sealed trunk on that front Tesla trunk, it would have started to leak out. This is my theory. Let me know if you have a different one. But it definitely looks like somebody was trying to cover up. And David is the number one suspect in this because of his relationship with Celeste, because of the fact that he was having a relationship with an underage girl, because of the fact that he was a rising star, his career was taking off. And this would be a motive to get rid of an inconvenient underage teenage girlfriend. He's also a suspect, in my opinion, because she was found inside his trunk of his Tesla that he owned. But he is innocent until proven guilty. And he has not even been indicted with any crimes yet. So Celeste ran away when she was around 13 years old to be with him. She had run away before, and TMZ showed this. Footage that, does show Celeste. So let's look at that together. They're saying this is the last time that Celeste was actually seen on camera. And let me back it up. So this is courtesy of TMZ. Let me just make sure I'm not blocking your view. No, you can see it. Okay. So let's watch together You're going to see her come out. She's going to run. Most of you have probably seen this footage, but I do want to show it. So there she is. She's right there, Celeste. She starts to run. And there was reportedly someone waiting down the road for her. And there she is in a car ready to pick her up. So who was waiting for her? Who was waiting for her? And you can see her there. You can see her running toward someone. So a lot of people have said, oh, her home life wasn't good. We don't know that. We don't know if she was lured away by a predator. We don't know if she was being, you know, I can't say it. I guess my question is, was she also being passed around by David? Was there anybody else in that entourage that would have had a motive? And what did the manager think when she was there night after night? And some people have said, oh, well, he didn't know. Well, yes, he did know. This wasn't the first time that Celeste had run away. And you can see this is her aunt, has pictures of her. So there's no way he did not know that she was missing. She had been reported missing. Police had come to his door before for Celeste. And it's really sad that this time they didn't go to the door, at least not that we know of. So a lot of people have said, well, she looked like she was older. I don't think she does. But David, regardless, would have known what her age was. We've also heard, and there she is again, we've also heard that she had multiple fake IDs. Well, someone helped her get those IDs. A 13/14-year-old girl doesn't get IDs, doesn't have the money or the resources to get IDs. So I do think she looks like a young teenage girl. She was precious and she deserves to be here. So we know when minors are lured away by a predator, and we know someone was waiting in that vehicle down the street, that it rarely ends well for the minor. And we don't know how old Celeste was when she passed away, but had she lived, she would have been 15 years old the day before she was found. But I don't think she lived past 14, in my opinion. So when will charges be brought? A prosecutor is not going to bring charges unless he or she believes they can prove the guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And this is why they have to rule out anybody else in David's entourage of being involved. They have to get doorbell cams, security cameras, Tesla cameras, the neighbors, CCTV cameras, and traffic cameras. These will be so important in establishing a timeline of when Celeste was last seen alive. And I believe that David's lyrics and his visuals that he was using of having a coffin on stage, of dragging a young girl by her heels and then putting her in the trunk of the car wearing a shirt stained with red paint. I believe that this is going to play a role in this if he is charged. Because it looks like he was processing what he did through his music. And it seems like he was thinking about this even before he allegedly committed these crimes. And so the prosecution and the DA have to build a circumstantial case, just like they did in the Idaho student case, piece by piece and brick by brick. So discovery was made in earlier videos, music lyrics, Discord, and X comments. These all appear in a new light, and fans were shocked to see David performing on stage with a casket. They were shocked to see just regular people like you and me who are not fans of David were shocked that he had it in his video of dragging a young girl by the heels and putting her in the back of a trunk. They were stunned. And so this has really drawn a lot of attention to David. And then we're finding out that David really liked Gore. Specifically, he liked video Gore. And I'm going to let you ruin your own Google search with that definition, because I already know Google probably thinks I'm very, very strange. But in One More Dance music video in February of 2025, David released a music video for One More Dance, which depicts him dragging this body, putting it in the trunk. In the Rehab music video, this is an anime style video for his song Rehab, features his, schmurderous alter ego cutting off a girl's arm, which some on social media have said that this young woman that he chose to play this part resembles Celeste Rivas Hernandez. In the Romantic Homicide music video, this is his very first viral hit, shows a young woman in a white dress. She's covered in red paint, which is supposed to depict blood. And she appears to no longer be living. So he was into this. And Romantic Homicide, to be clear, was written years before Celeste was found. Merchandise and stage props, those shirt merchandise in that photo that I showed you a few minutes ago, this was on sale. He was selling these. He was selling these, you guys. He was selling these. Which is just really, really sad. A lot of people have been speculating as to why David would move out of his $28,000 a month rental home. Let's see if I can move this around. And I just want to show you the receipts that he was selling those shirts. There they are, custom shirts. And he was literally describing them the way you see them. So he can't say, oh, well, I didn't mean them that way. It was just red paint. And you can see him wearing the red painted shirt. This is similar to what he wore in the video. So this is him. This is just the receipts that he was into video Gore. This is David here 2 years ago talking about it. You can find it. That's what he loved. I love Gore. That's what he was into. And then this is also receipts that he was having a relationship of Celeste. Now there are two Celestes. There's an older Celeste who goes by the name of Cece, and then Celeste. But I think no one is disputing the fact that he was having a relationship with the younger Celeste. And you can see here in 2022, so she would have been 12 years old, 11 years old, guys. Sorry. 11 or 12 years old. And he's asking, is Celeste in here? And hi, David. She was there. And this is lyrics from the song. I'll just go through that really quick for those of you who are not familiar with this case. See if I can make myself really small. Okay. Oh, Celeste. This is from the song Celeste. The girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell of her, my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice. Each time I take a breath, I'm obsessed. Oh, Celeste. Afraid you'll only love me when I undress, but you look so damn gorgeous in that dress. Missing you so much makes me depressed. So that is just, talks about the fact that he was obsessed. And that's verse 3 of the song. And you can go to his channel and you can watch. He has a YouTube channel. You can watch his whole thing. And then we have these photos. We have these photos. And I do believe this is Celeste with David. I do believe that this is her in the photo. And I do believe this is also Celeste, the 13-year-old Celeste with David. Now, there was pictures of them at a concert that were being passed around. I did not include those because I do not have any proof that they that she was at the concert, that it is her, and I could not make it out. But this is also the user was deleted. But this is what some people are saying, why they believe she is pregnant. Are you happily married or single? And she says me, and the user is deleted, got a kid on the way. So I don't know if, if she did or didn't, but if she did, that would have definitely been a motive, in my opinion. His career is taking off, and then all of a sudden, and this is his mansion where law enforcement is serving the search warrant that was being rented by his manager. That's the casket on the right. So it's really, the whole thing is just really, really sad, you guys. Let me move myself back over here. All right, let's keep going because we have a lot to dig into on this case. There's just a lot to unpack. So much. Come on in. Tell me where you're from if you're just joining me. So we went through all of his music. So let's talk about the real reason that he moved out of that house. I'm going to give you 4 theories, and number 4 is by far the worst. So a lot of people are speculating as to why David would have moved out of his $28,000 rental home, and that he apparently was renting this under his manager's name. So there are a couple of different scenarios, and let's go through them together. And I have these 4 reasons, and the 4th one is very sinister. So I'll just give you a trigger warning on that. First, it could be the manager doesn't want to be associated with David. And so moving, the house was being rented in his name. He may be absolutely disgusted by what he learned. And so he's going to move on with his career and do what he can to distance himself from David, because David was a rising star in the R&B community. But I don't know if he can get us, even if he didn't do away with Celeste, he still was having an inappropriate, illegal relationship with a 12, 13, 14-year-old. So if he is indicted, he is likely going to have lots of legal fees. I think that all of the money that he's made is going to end up going toward legal fees if he is indicted. And so his career will be over and he will not be in need of a manager. So I think that's the number 1 reason why his stuff was packed up and moved out. But it was weird, right? Because the guys that packed it up were masked with sunglasses on, filming it. 2, it's being reported that David has hired an attorney or attorneys to represent him. We know his brand deals all took giant step back. We know his label is backing off of him. They probably frozen his funds. So it looks like he's going to be in need of every dime he can get to pay for a defense. So if he has a $20,000 a month lease, he may have decided and talked with his manager and decided to let the lease go so he can cover his attorney fees. 3, it could be that David is suspicious of his manager. Was the manager living in that house with David and Celeste, or was he just renting it as a favor to David? Because David is claiming that he was set up. Now, regardless of whether he was set up for putting Celeste in the trunk or not, he is still, in my opinion, needs to be held morally accountable and maybe legally accountable for having a runaway minor who was missing, and her family was actively looking for her in his house. And I do not believe that she got hold of these fake IDs that we are, hearing people say that she had. She didn't get those by herself. She had help. So he's claiming he's set up. David maybe thinks he was set up by his manager and that his manager did something to Celeste. So he doesn't want to be anywhere near the manager. That's number 3. Number 4 is the most sinister, and it could be that they know that law enforcement served a search warrant on the house. They were concerned that law enforcement would come back with another search warrant and find additional items that tie David to Celeste, or David to this crime, or the manager to Celeste, or the manager to the crime. So by moving out, David and his manager could get all of the belongings out of the house that belonged to them and anybody else. And it would be a good cover to get rid of the other items in the house under the pretense of moving out. And that's, in my opinion, the most logical reason, most sinister reason. Again, no one has been charged and everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And I don't know if his manager lived at the house or not. I don't know what his manager knew or didn't know, but it's hard to believe that nobody knew. The investigators, let's talk about the investigation, what they're going to be looking for. They're likely to have examined the data from the Tesla cameras for clues as to when Celeste was last seen. So we don't know if those cameras, they would have to be manually turned off. Otherwise, they would continue recording. The car's built-in security features like Sentry Mode could be a critical source of evidence in this case. The Tesla's cameras could potentially record somebody putting Celeste in the trunk. They could be providing the security feature Sentry Mode was enabled at the time. So they could have been disabled. The fact that reports indicate that the Tesla data is being used as part of the investigation involving David and Celeste. So let's talk about how those cameras and the Tesla would have functioned. How did the cameras in the Tesla? And she was found in the front, in what's called a frunk. So they have Sentry Mode activation, which is the vehicle's external cameras to detect potential threats when the car is locked and parked. And we know this car was parked. When a motion is detected, the system will record video footage, again, unless someone manually turned it off. And if so, did the vehicle record who turned it off? 2, camera coverage. The Teslas are equipped with multiple cameras that give a nearly 360-degree view around that vehicle. The rear-facing camera is located above the license plate on the trunk in the back of the car or the lift gate and can directly view activity. There's also a camera on the front of the car that could, again, directly record and view activity. 3, recording triggers. Sentry Mode can be triggered by a person opening the trunk. An expert consulted by News Nation indicated that clips of someone opening the trunk would be able to be recovered if Sentry Mode was active. 4, data access. While recordings are stored locally on USB drives, police may be able to recover this data even if it has been deleted by using digital forensics. In the case of David, a digital forensic expert stated that if Sentry Mode was activated in the Tesla associated with David, that's the one you're seeing on your screen, police would have clips of people opening the door, getting in and out of the vehicle, opening the trunk, and this potentially could give us a picture of when Celeste was last seen alive. When's her last proof of life, independent of whatever David is telling law enforcement. And my understanding is that he isn't saying anything. So these Tesla cameras may help law enforcement with the investigation. And I also want to show you proof that law enforcement is investigating a homicide. Nobody thinks this was an accident. So let's look at that together. So law enforcement is investigating a homicide. No matter what they try to say publicly, this is the truth. Let me grab a sip of water. Fans question the dark inspiration behind David's music amid the investigation into what happened to Celeste. So they are questioning the dark inspiration behind David's work as the investigation continues into the doing away of a teenage girl who was found in the trunk of his car in Hollywood. In a previous interview with singer on the Zach Sang Show podcast is sparking online conversation because David talks about his music. Quote, meaning you can get into a friendship expecting it to end in a devastating, tragic, sad way so it can inspire your art, but are you manifesting that? And I guess my question is, was David manifesting that? That's what he asked. He said, "I don't know. I hope I'm not," David replied. So he doesn't know if he was manifesting or not. I look back on old songs like Life's a Dream and all the songs I wrote in my closet, my sister's closet back in 2022. When I'm looking back at my life in the past 9 to 8 months, I'm like, whoa, like, bro, these songs are soundtracking my life. This is why everybody's disturbed. The online discourse among fans comes down to the Los Angeles County medical examiner confirmed that it was Celeste and she was released to her family. When asked about it during an on-set interview with ABC 7, Philip Palmer Wednesday, an LAPD chief, Jim McDonald said he couldn't share much about the ongoing investigation. He said, quote, "We have a lot of resources dedicated to bringing it to a conclusion, but to go beyond what's already been made public would be inappropriate." As for speculation that the 20-year-old singer might have had a relationship with Celeste, who would have turned 15, I don't think she lived to be 15. The police chief said, whenever, and that's just my opinion, let me know if you have a different one, whenever you investigate a crime like this, I'm watching my words, the detectives look at it, all of the associated issues as well. In this case, and he does use the word homicide. So whenever you investigate a homicide, the detectives look at all of the associated issues as well. In this case, that's something they would be looking at. So that's just for anybody who said, oh, that, this could have been an accident. She could have crawled in the trunk. No, she didn't crawl in the trunk, put herself into multiple plastic bags. Somebody did that to her. David has since canceled the remainder of his tour, but he still has dates in Australia. So he was planning to go on tour in Europe. Those have been canceled. His other appearances here in the United States have been canceled, but his Australian dates are still up there. Those are in November. And maybe he's hoping that whoever did this, if he didn't do this, will be indicted. Because he is not publicly commenting on this case, and he has not been named as a suspect. But as David remains silent, his fans are loud. They are critiquing his lyrics and music video, the gory images and the themes. And then you go back to that comment about him saying this was a soundtrack. These songs are soundtracking my life. These songs are soundtracking my life. So was he processing all of this? Was he fantasizing about all of this ahead of time? Was he planning this on some level? As he remains silent, when people are critiquing the lyrics and the music videos, of course. One of his most popular songs is Romantic Homicide. That was his first big hit. The music video for One More Dance, we already talked about that, but it shows a blindfolded David in a red stained shirt standing by as two people drag this young girl and put her into the body of a trunk. So did he have help? And then we have the anime music video for his song Rehab, which depicts a young girl's arm being removed. And I'm watching my words here. So just really disturbing, in my opinion, imagery. And I can see why people are upset. Just the fact that he thought it was in good taste to sell these shirts. And that he thought it was in good taste to, just hang out with an underage girl. So let's talk about the lyrics. Let me move myself down here. So in the back of my mind, K did away with you with a K and didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's you. So this is what he's writing about. This is what he's talking about. This is what he's obsessed with, you guys. And this is why people are disturbed. This is why people are like, why in the world is he writing about all of this? Why is he so obsessed with having a coffin on the stage? There's the tattoo. So is that Celeste? I don't know. Why was he dragging a young woman or young girl, or watched anybody blindfolded while they dragged a young girl? This seems like this is what he was into. He says he really likes Gore. That's what he really likes. So this is what he was into. And it's really sad for Celeste because she deserved to feel safe. And I do think she was running to him. And unfortunately, when you're the age that Celeste was, when you're 13 or 14, think back to that time when you were 13 or 14 years old, right? Think back to that time. And remember how invincible you thought, right? You thought nothing bad could happen to you. And you thought you knew everything. So a lot of people are saying, well, what was her home life like that she kept running away? And my pushback on that is maybe it was awful. I don't know. We're going to talk about David's mom next in just a second. But, maybe it was horrible. But it could also be that she was being lured away. And that's why that TMZ video that I showed earlier is so important. Because they say you can't see it in what they show, but they were able to make out that there was a vehicle waiting for her. Someone was waiting for her. So she was being lured away from her family. So in my opinion, Celeste probably really believed and probably really did love David, who loved Gore. And so I think she wasn't running from someone. I think she was running to someone. That's my opinion. But I could be wrong, and we might find out, that I am wrong. So let me show this. This is his mom. So David's mom has turned up at a pawn shop. She showed up at a pawn shop. And while she was in there, she came out and she did not, people are like, well, she didn't have a pew. But she was in there. She was in the pawn shop. So let's talk about what was she doing. Well, this is my opinion. I think that she came out with a brochure about like an AK-15 or 17. I don't know the names. But that's what she came out with, a brochure about it. So in my opinion, she had to apply for one. So I just really hope that nobody's sending any kind of negativity, that we wouldn't in this true crime community, but there are crazy people online, and I just really hope that nobody's doing, scaring her to pieces, because whatever is going on, this isn't her fault. We don't have any videos or pictures of her with Celeste. So when was Celeste last seen alive? Let's talk about that. When was she last seen alive? When is her last proof of life? Ooh. According to SF investigator Steve Fisher, he's saying that Celeste, according to people that he was spoken with, was seen alive in July. So this makes a lot of sense. We believe that she was placed in the trunk of that Tesla, or the front trunk of the Tesla, toward the end of August, beginning of September timeframe. But I'm giving you this information with the caveat that I'm not able to independently confirm that SF Investigates spoke to anyone. Now we have people online claiming that the car did not smell. And this is because Steve Fisher, SF Investigates, told Ashley Banfield this on News Nation. And he said that people that he spoke with said the car did not smell. And so this is my opinion. I think when the car was parked in that neighborhood, it didn't smell. She was wrapped in bags, trash bags, black bags. And I think when they moved that car to tow it, and they pulled up the front of the car to either load it on the flatbed or the back of the car, it shifted what was left of Celeste in those bags and loosened something. And even though the trunk of the Tesla would be really airtight, I think it loosened the bags enough where after a day or so, the smell did begin to leak out. So I think both things can be true. I think Steve Fisher could have spoken to people who said that, the trunk did not smell. But I think that it's also possible that the car did have a smell, depending on, where they were and what, if while they were loading her up on that tow truck, things shifted around. And that's when I think it would have loosened a bag that Celeste was in, and we know she was wrapped in multiple plastic bags. So SF Investigates is also claiming that the manager of David, his name is Josh Marshall, please don't send him any negativity, knew that Celeste was a minor. This is what he is claiming. He was warned, allegedly, back in 2024 that Celeste was a teenager and that she was a missing teenager. And if this is true, this will give him some culpability in Celeste's disappearance too. At least some charges. Now, to me, it's going to be whoever makes a deal first. David is being very quiet, but it is interesting that the lease was canceled on the house. And how handy would it be to clear everything out of the house, all of the boxes, everything? Remember that video camera that was set up there filming everything? Was that filming because somebody wanted to make sure that something specific was removed from the house, or wanted to know what law enforcement had taken from the house? How else would you inventory it if you didn't want law enforcement to know you were doing it? And how would you keep law enforcement from going back and getting other items that might leak you to Celeste from that house? If you were the manager or you were David, you would move. So Josh Marshall was, according to SF Investigates, again, I cannot independently verify this, law enforcement has not told that this, was staying at this house. So we do not have official confirmation on this, so I am urging caution here. So please don't send any negativity to Josh or to David or to anyone. We're waiting for official confirmation, and authorities are being very tight-lipped, just like they were in the Brian Koberger investigation. They had identified him on December 19th as a suspect, but he wasn't arrested until December 30th. They needed probable cause. They needed that DNA to get him. So if Josh Marshall, the manager, knew, then this whole nonsense that they didn't know that Celeste was only 13 because she had multiple IDs, that somehow a 13, 14-year-old girl was able to buy for herself, no, that completely falls apart. That completely falls apart. It takes away any ability for David to say he didn't know, and I do believe he knew. At the very least, he's guilty of that. And that's why I believe his career is probably over. But, Josh Marshall allegedly knew also. So who got her those IDs? Who paid for those? So I think that it would be very hard to also believe that there weren't other people in David's entourage that knew that Celeste was a minor and knew that she was a runaway and knew that she was a missing 13/14-year-old. So there have been a lot of rumors flying around due to a post where, about the baby. I don't know if this is true or not true. I just showed it to you with the caveat of, I don't know if this is Celeste. I don't know if this is true, but that certainly would be a motive, wouldn't it? And now we have neighbors who are speaking out to the Sun, and they are saying that there weren't parties at the property. There weren't parties, but that Celeste was absolutely there at that house with David. They said, quote, she was always with David. So this is really alarming that an underage girl was living at the house that was being rented by David's manager, Josh Marshall, who was reportedly living there too, and that nobody was alerting her family to her whereabouts while her family's actively looking for her. there's missing posters up looking for Celeste. Moreover, the neighbors said that they did try, this was a male neighbor, tried to strike up a conversation between David, Celeste, and himself. And that he said that they were not very forthcoming. And I'm sure that David probably told Celeste to be quiet because there was a lot to hide. And again, this goes back to motive, you guys. So David was allegedly living, because he hasn't been charged with anything, living a very dangerous lifestyle, in my opinion. He was a grown man living with an underage 13, 14-year-old missing child who had a family actively looking for her. And meanwhile, he's letting her stay at his home, doing we don't know what with her. We can guess, but she was not of an age to consent. And we're hearing that he did have other people around him. Now, the neighbors said there weren't a lot of parties. So I don't know if David's entourage or whoever he traveled around with would have known. But somebody showed up. Some of these guys were dressed in black masks and sunglasses. So was she being passed around? When David was traveling, was somebody else trying to access Celeste? And I'm being very, very careful. Was there anyone else in this entourage? Because I have to tell you that this whole thing of Celeste being at the house with David and his manager, Josh, feels very predatory, in my opinion. And watching the TMZ footage of Celeste running from her home and running toward a car. I mean, somebody, according to TMZ, is waiting for her. Someone is there to pick her up. This takes me back, to what the neighbor said to the son. Celeste was always with David. So I believe it was David or someone from his entourage in that vehicle waiting for her to drive her to David. So I think law enforcement would have been checking for any DNA on Celeste herself. Any DNA in that trunk, any fingerprints or DNA on the plastic bags, and try to link that back to a specific person. They're also going to want to know how she passed away. Is the hyoid bone, which is a floating bone that can be broken if someone is manually that, is that intact or was that broken? Because, in my opinion, that's probably the most logical. Now, some people have said that it could have been something like an accident of some type, and maybe David didn't feel like he could call the police. So we should continue to ask for justice. Celeste deserved so much more than just justice, but she should have been in high school. She should have been living a happy life. She should have been falling in love with a boy her own age. But we can't do anything to help Celeste now except send prayers for her family and her loved ones. But we can do this for Celeste. We can continue to push for truth on behalf of this child. We can continue to push for justice. We can demand justice for Celeste. And I think that she deserves that. I do want to do a poll. I see some comments in the chat. Let me see. Redondo says, let me grab a sip of water. David even had it passed a couple of years ago. Something about waiting for the LAPD to question you when you're hanging out with a 13-year-old, something like that. Oh, a post. Oh, wow. If you have a link to that, drop it in the chat so I can see it. Yeah, he destroyed his career. Regardless of whether he's indicted for doing away with Celeste or not, the fact that he lured, in my opinion, a 13, 14-year-old, maybe as young as 12, when he first began interacting with her, away from her family, away from her home to come and stay with him is a crime, and he needs to be held accountable for that. And so, yes, I think regardless of whether he's indicted for doing away with Celeste or not, his career, in my opinion, I don't see people willing to just excuse that. Maybe some people will. I could be wrong. I've been wrong lots of times before. Let's do a poll. I want to hear what you guys think. If you think David's career is over, regardless of whether or not he's indicted for doing away with Celeste, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that if David is not indicted for doing away with Celeste, that nothing happens and law enforcement just drops it, can he, or somebody else is indicted for doing away with Celeste, can he resume his career in light of knowing that he was living with a minor? Put a 2 in the chat if you think that where we are at as a society. I'm just really, really curious. Kid Sunny said, someone said they found the Tesla key. Oh, yes, I do have that link. I do have that. And I'll post that probably tomorrow. Yeah, somebody found a Tesla key in the gutter outside David's house. Reportedly, I don't know. This is what they're claiming. And this is where, online sleuthing can be really helpful. And I do say to everybody, continue to dig, you guys. Continue to find these connections. Help find law enforcement. But if you do find an actual piece of evidence, like a Tesla key or something like that, please don't touch it. Just call the police. Yeah, I saw that. And this is our head mod. And Jazz, thank you so much for modding today. And our other head mod, Mike, thank you so much for modding today. Please give this a thumbs up. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that I am doing a responsible job. Patty said, in my opinion, I believe David was paying the parents to keep quiet about their relationship. I have not seen any evidence to that, but it's, I've heard that rumor too. I just have not found anything to corroborate it. Care Bear, hey, good to see you. Mary said he paid the mother $1.5 million. There is a photograph floating around of him in the neighborhood about 6 minutes away from where Celeste was living with somebody. And purportedly he was, giving money. And I don't know if this was related to Celeste or if this is, just unrelated, but he was in that neighborhood and he lived about 70 minutes away. I do want to say thank you to Mike for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so, so much for that. Thank you to Njaz for the, oh my goodness, 20 pounds super thanks. She says, great live. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank Njaz for gifting a Reporter Room channel membership. If you got that channel membership, please make sure to say thank you to Njaz. And she also gifted another Reporter Room membership. So if you received that, please make sure you say thank you to Njaz. And I just want to say thank you so much, Njaz. Let me give that a big round of applause. For the super thanks. And thank you so much for supporting me. I do want to, I've been covering the Brian Kohlberger case a lot. You guys know that. We're going to be doing a live stream on him next. I'm going to close this one out and do another one. But I do want to also let you know that I have, let me see if I have this handy. Let me take this down. I have an email for you guys. It's tips for Jessica. So if you have tips or a case you would like me to cover at outlook.com, tips for Jessica at outlook.com. If you want to email me, if you have any tips in this case, if you have another case you want me to cover. We're also going to be covering, after I do Brian Kohlberger, we're going to cover the Laken Snelling case. The University of Kentucky beauty queen, she was 21, cheerleader who put her baby in a trash bag. So a lot of trash bags tonight. That seems to be like a way that people do like to get rid of things. So make sure you write down my email, and if you have something you want to tell me or something to share with me. I used to just have people DM me on Twitter, and I was just thinking yesterday, you know what, we should just put an email up. I do want to say thank you to our producers. And Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Michael Cole, Christy Valentine, and thank you to our channel members so much. If you would like your name to appear like this, It just costs, I think it's $2.99, but subscribing is free and it helps me out a lot too. So now we know that law enforcement absolutely is investigating this as something that was intentional, as something that was purposeful, as something that someone did. We also know that Celeste didn't get into the trunk by herself. We know that David had, said he was basically, channeling his life into his music. He didn't use those words, I'm paraphrasing, but it does seem like there was a lot of leakage, that a lot of things that he was into, a lot of things that he had proclivities for, ended up in his music and, ended up happening to Celeste. So I think that's really concerning also, you guys. And I do want to do super thanks and coffee gratitude from the last live stream. It was 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late with this, you guys. NJazz and NJazz. For those of you that don't know, I'll just tell you what happened to me. I had a fall. I fell and hurt my ankle. I'm doing a lot better now, but I did end up trying to just, I did some live streams, but I was having a lot of pain and was trying to elevate. There's you'll see live streams from me a couple weeks ago where I have my leg up like this and I'm kind of listing to the side. It wasn't comfortable, and basically ended up with some damage in the nerves from where I landed, and so it just has taken a little bit more time to heal. And what I just decided to do was just go ahead and, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the Brian Kohlberger case, just some stuff. And Unspoken is saying that neighbors did say it smelled. See, that's what I think too. I think just because, and I think both things can be true. He could have talked to somebody who said they didn't smell anything, but somebody else could have smelled something. It depends what day they went by that car. It depends if they were outside the car when it was getting loaded up by the tow truck and things began to, that things in the trunk began to unravel. Unspoken says he didn't like that Celeste confronted him because he wanted the control. And that's really common, right? And Tanya said, I found the purse at his house. I saw that image too. For those of you that don't know what Tanya and I are talking about, this purse, let me see if I have it handy. Did I go by it? There is an image of, there it is. This image, this purse is in his house. And another connection that you guys found. So good job to all of our social media sleuths. The Hello Kitty shoes that she was reported missing and she was reported wearing when she went missing were also seen at his house. And David also was really into Hello Kitty. Patty said David was grooming her from age 11 or 12 online, in my opinion. No, you can't. I do have the picture. I'll pull it up. But if you want to email it to me, you can. And we're going to talk about the Brian Kohlberger case. In fact, I'm going to go over there right now if you want to follow me over. I am going to continue to follow this case of what happened to Celeste because I just think that we do need to stay on this. We do need to keep putting pressure. And I think that with all of the great sleuthing that the social media group is doing, all of you guys, all of the connections that you guys are finding, I do think that every little bit that you guys find is going to help establish connections back to either David or to his manager or somebody in the entourage. But let me see where we are on that poll, because I did do a poll of 1s and 2s. I see a 1. Did I only get one answer? No, here we go. I went by it. That's my bad. NJazz says 1. Deborah says 1. Unspoken says 1. Holly says 1. Mary says 1. Piplover says 2. Piplover said his music has already skyrocketed. It's disgusting. Tanya said, please watch that. Mary says, although it's possibility he was framed, he sure shouldn't have been in a relationship with her, let alone Well, we don't know that her parents took money. This could be something that's just being put out to try to make it look like he had permission from her family. So we don't know that yet. So I'm going to urge caution on that. I don't want to like re-victimize her family. They were actively looking for her. And I think that and I don't know what happened, but I think that, if it was just simply a case of, let me just share this instead. Let me pull this down. They were actively looking for her. So I want to I'm just urging caution before we point the fingers at the family. This is posted by her aunt. These are her photos, and they were actively looking for her. This is what was posted on her aunt's Facebook, February 18th of 2024. We still don't know anything about my niece. I will not get tired of begging God and appear, well, I love you, and you know that the mercy of God will accompany you wherever you are. I have faith that and you will return into our arms. And it's so sad because that did not happen. But that's her aunt. And you can see there were missing posters up of Celeste. She disappeared. Last seen, they're saying on Valentine's Day, which I also think is significant. I think it is significant that, and this was, remember, she went missing a couple of different times, but the fact that she disappeared on Valentine's Day, I think somebody wanted, I think she was lured. I think she was lured out of the house. And she wanted to spend Valentine's Day with David. Yep, you can send pictures, you can send tips, you can send other cases you want me to cover. You can email me. Shelly says I've silently listened because my hands were busy. Thank you for the coming. So it seems like it was mostly ones with a couple of twos, and the one person who did put two, which was Pip, had the caveat of just that so many people do like his music, which is really, really scary to think about. So the holidays are coming up. We do have a Facebook group. It's a really nice Facebook group of true crime people. If you type in Reporter Room and D4VD or Facebook and Celeste Rivas, it should pop up for you. Reporter Room, and we do have a nice online community of really kind and caring people. I think there's around 1,100 people in our group. It's a really small, intimate, kind and caring group if you want to join that. And if you want to subscribe and be part of a kind and caring group, true crime group here on Facebook, please consider subscribing to Reporter Room. And Halloween, if you guys want, I will be doing a Halloween special. Let me know what case you would like me to cover on Halloween. So I'm going to continue to follow this case, look for more videos, and there will be another live stream in 2 to 3 days, unless we have breaking news. If there's breaking news, obviously, I will be going live right away. So please subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any breaking news, and I will see you on the next one. It's free.